Hi! You're listening to the Coffee O'Clock podcast, the show that brings you joy and inspiration, with special guests from all around the world who have an amazing story and expertise to evolve your personal and professional life. I am your host, Burcu Onaranet, the founder of Joy Marketing and Coaching. Make sure you grab your coffee and get ready to explore new ideas. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, my people who love coffee and Coffee O'Clock. Today, as always, I have a guest across the country, across the world. He is in London, Duncan Bhaskaran Brown. He and I will be talking about why alcohol might be getting in your way and how to change that. This topic I never had a guest who talked about it, so it's going to be very interesting for me as well, and I hope you will get the most out of it. Duncan is a speaker, author, and a Maurice dancer. I won't let him wait more, and I want to welcome him. Welcome, Duncan. How are you today?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me on this fine sunny day.
Sunny, huh? It's not sunny here. It is very rainy and gray and not fun, but I'm glad it's sunny over there.
Yeah. For once, the weather is nice in the UK. Who knew?
Yes, it's very rare. That's what I heard. Duncan, how to start, where to start? I just want to give you a space first to introduce yourself a little bit more deeper than only a few titles that I just mentioned. Can you tell us a little bit of who you are?
Yeah, so the most important thing I do in life, I guess, is husband to a beautiful wife, father to a beautiful daughter, and I also look after two kind of average-looking bonsai trees. I like Morris dancing and I like falling off my inline skates. Work-wise, I guess I think there's a bit of a misconception about what I do. A lot of people think that I help people to stop drinking, but that is not what I do. I don't help people to stop drinking. I help them to start living.
I love that. I love that. And it's always, there's a power to use positive language. When you say, I help them to quit something or stop doing something, it's not going to create any positive and motivational energy. But when you say, I help them to do something, start living, start doing, that's a different level of helping and creating a different energy.
Yeah, absolutely. You're quite right. A different energy is a great way of putting it. Though I think the word quit is kind of interesting because we use quit in some senses in a very positive way. Like most people, when they quit their job, they think, woohoo, I've quit my job. It's usually quite a good thing. But sometimes we think of quitting drinking in quite a negative way. And that's, maybe it's a bit ambitious to try and reclaim the word quit, but I think there's a lot of strength and a lot of power in that word. And I think helping people to really understand it and embrace the idea. You know, I am a quitter and I am very proud of being a quitter. I have quit a lot of awful stuff in my life. And, you know, I'm very happy and comfortable with the word quit.
Yes, in a positive way. You're using it in a positive way. That's why you're happy to quit. I am happy to quit my corporate job years ago too. So I love that as well.
Yes, yeah.
So,
I've never met anyone who has who's quit the corporate life and doesn't speak of it in, you know, sort of positive smiling terms. I mean, even if we have to go back to work in some sort of 9 to 5, generally if you're prepared to quit a well-paid job, you know, there are other things that you're not enjoying about it, so getting away from those, so big smiles on faces.
yes, I agree, indeed. So, Duncan, I want to go into this hard moments a little bit, because if you're helping people, you've been helping people to start living, it comes to our mind, my mind, that you were not living before. So you had that a little bit of dark side in your life and you decided to start living. And then not only that, but also helping others to do it, because you found the power of quitting whatever that you quit and started living your life. So what was the experience looks like when you were not living, and how did you made a decision to change?
See, I think that really captures it, the fact that I was not living, I was functioning, which
Mhm.
is a word that your listeners are almost certainly familiar with, the idea of a high functioning alcoholic. And I was very high functioning. I had the platinum card and everything, I was on the outside, I was very successful. I looked like it was all going really, really well. And honestly, if you'd asked me, I would have told you it was all going really, really well because I always talk a good game. But inside I was miserable. I wasn't happy. I wasn't doing, I was doing, I like to think I was doing some good in the world, but it wasn't really my good. I was kind of living somebody else's life. I was living the expectations that other people had of me. And while there was some satisfaction in that, there was also a lot of disconnect. And ultimately, drinking alcohol regularly makes you miserable. That is not my opinion. That is the science behind it. I can get very boring on the neurology of it all if you want, but basically I was drinking every day and I was miserable all of the time because of the effect that alcohol has um on your brain chemistry. And it got to a point where um I couldn't ignore it anymore. So my wife and I had decided that we wanted to start a family, and so we started trying, which was that was pretty good fun actually. And then she got pregnant, and it all seemed like this is wonderful, and you like those typical stupid naive new parents, smiles all the time, that kind of thing. And then she had a miscarriage and everything sort of fell apart. Obviously it was very tough on her emotionally, physically, mentally, but I think what made it a lot worse was the fact that I wasn't really there for her. My default reaction to any difficult emotions or difficult experiences or any stress really was to just drink. So that's what I did. I just disappeared into a bottle of wine and pretty much left her on her own, which was, looking back on it, I'm not particularly proud of that. But it was, in some ways, the silver lining was that it did force me to take a look at life, and I never did that kind of like, people always claim to have had that 4 a.m. staring in the mirror moment when suddenly they realized it all. I don't believe that ever really happens, and it didn't happen to me. But what I did was I spent a couple of months really kind of grappling with these questions. What was it that I wanted from life? What did I want to do with myself? Why was I here? And now I see it really came down to this choice. The choice was, do I want another drink or do I want to start a family? Luckily, I made the right choice. And I spoiled it with the introduction, didn't I? You already know I've got a lovely daughter, but she was born almost exactly 9 months to the day after I stopped drinking. So, it
Oh,
all turned out nice.
that's amazing. It just got me chills that you quit something and universes and responses respond to it like right away. It's amazing. I love
Yeah.
these stories. And now you're a different person and a different father, and you almost want to be grateful at that time you didn't have that first child, because you were not in this state of mind. It helped you to become this person, actually, your very first child. So thank you for sharing that. It's very vulnerable to share these kind of stories, and not everybody is willing to do that. So I want to give my congratulations to you to do that. It's important to acknowledge our feelings, because life is not always shiny and happy, but we can make it shiny and happy with our choices by quitting. And I see that two books behind you. Can you share a little bit of them? I saw one of them, Real Men Quit, and other Get Over Indulgence.
Yeah, so Get Over Indulgence is my It's always called it my first book. It's not really. I wrote a really boring book about local government, but none of your listeners are interested in that. Trust me. Anyway, so it's my first book on the topic that I talk about at the moment, and it's really it is my journey. You know, central to that story is the experiences that my wife and I had trying to conceive, but you know, there's a lot more to it than that. It talks a bit about some of the issues that I had with food as well, and it's really you know, I hope it's kind of funny. It's quite short, it's quite readable, and it just, you know, takes you from this place of, you know, like misery and, you know, tiredness and just not being able to focus and not doing what I'm was put here to, and then how I got into kind of all of the peace, love, and joy and excitement that my life is these days. And there's a little bit. I mean, I don't want to put people off by saying there's a little bit that you could learn from it. It's mostly just fun. It's mostly just a story. But there, you know, I do explain a little bit of what I did to get there as well. But you know, that got really good reception. I was really pleased with it. But I wanted to do something which was a bit more kind of actually about the process that you could take, the steps that you could walk through to stop drinking. And the reason why it's called Real Men Quit, not Real People Quit, is because unfortunately, the guys, we're just not covering ourselves in glory in terms of alcohol. So men are far more likely to have a drinking problem, 2 or 3 times more likely, depending on whose statistics you look at. The World Health Organization says that for every 4 drinks sold in the world, a man will drink 3 of them. And you know, the average man across the world drinks 19.4 liters of pure alcohol a year, which translates to over 3 bottles of wine a week, which is a lot. That is far too much. So I wanted to do something to help men, because of course, you know, not only do we drink more, we also are a bit rubbish at asking for help. So I thought a book would
Mm.
be quite good. So, you know, it's very much aimed at men. It's about all of the stuff that men are interested in. So there's a lot of sports, there's a lot of James Bond, Star Wars, there's a lot of cliches, there's a lot of really bad jokes, but you know, it seems to be going in the right direction. It seems to be helping a lot of men. So I'm very proud of it.
You should be. You should be very proud of it. And I really love the color of it. I will make sure to include your book links under our show so that our listeners and watchers can take a look at them and hopefully buy and change their life. I want to ask you, how do you do that? Like how did you change your life, and how do you help your clients to change theirs?
Well, no, there's 3 sections to the book because there's 3 things that you need to do. The first is to get to grips with your beliefs. So we all have a lot of beliefs, values, perceptions, ideas that sit below our actions, and we very rarely look at them. We very rarely think about them. We just behave in a certain way and think, well, that's the way we behave. So, like for example, we had an election recently, and it was the least important election in the world. It was something called the Police and Crime Commissioner, which is very boring. No one cares about. Add to that the fact that where I live, it's a foregone conclusion. There's one guy who's going to get elected. There's all, you know, many people would say there's no point in voting in that election because it's not very important and you're not going to affect the result. But I went and voted because I believe that voting is important, even when it seems unimportant, you know. And my belief, you know, it underpinned my actions. And so much of what we do in life is like that. So I think the first thing to do to change any behavior, not just drinking, is to get to grips with what do you believe about it. And we believe a lot of stuff about alcohol that we've never really questioned. So a lot of guys will think that alcohol makes them tough. A lot of women will believe that alcohol makes them sophisticated. And you know, honestly, you can ask yourself whether that's true or whether that's just something that you happen to see in a lot of films. You know, is it really making you tough and making you sophisticated, or is that just what the adverts say? So, you know, you've got to get to grips with all of these beliefs. And there are many, you know, like it's about socializing, dating, stress,
Mhm.
creativity, the list goes on. There are lots and lots. So you've got to kind of get to grips with what you believe about alcohol, because that dictates the amount you drink. And that is not my belief.
Yeah.
That is the evidence. That's what the science shows about it. So we untangle all of those beliefs to start off with. Once you've done that, then you move on to the thoughts. And that's the idea that, you know, maybe you'll bump into a friend and you've always had a drink with that friend. So almost seeing them will make you think, oh, it's a good idea to have a drink. Now, between thinking it's a good idea to have a drink and actually having a drink, there is a moment when you get to make a choice. And what we do around thought management is about exploiting that moment where you make that choice and making a different choice and learning a new way, because ultimately you've taught yourself to drink. You know, you have over hundreds and thousands of occasions you have taught yourself that the appropriate response to stress is drinking, the appropriate response to socializing is drinking, the appropriate response to being awake sometimes is drinking. You know, so it's about using thought management techniques to teach yourself something a little bit different. And then once you've dealt with the beliefs and the thoughts, then you've got to look at the actions. And honestly, the actions are the easy bit. You know, once you've done the beliefs and the thoughts, the actions follow.
Yeah.
The problem that I find is most people try and do it the other way around. If most people want to change their behavior, what they do is they change the actions first. And they sort of hope that the thoughts and the beliefs catch up. And
I know.
sometimes they do. But what I've noticed is that it is far more effective to do it that right way around: beliefs, thoughts, actions.
Yes, yes. And it's the same for binge eating. You have to go deeper. Why you're doing it? What are you replacing with that thing in your own beliefs and values and feelings? You're replacing it with something. Like you said, when you were sad, you replaced it with the wine. You were drinking that to numb the pain. So you have to make a different choice to numb that, whatever you're trying to replace it. And I 100% agree with you. You have to change your beliefs first, and then thoughts, and then action follows, not the way around. And people will fall apart if they try the other way, because I personally experienced this about around chocolate and binge eating years ago. I tried to quit like right away. Okay, I'm not buying any chocolate, and I hope that it will, you know, fall apart other things. No, it doesn't do that that way. It doesn't work that way. So I agree with you 100%.
Look, I mean, we all do stupid things, don't we? But that does not make us stupid. And actually, our behaviors, they have a kind of curious logic to them. So in some respects, binge eating and smoking and drinking, it does perform a function. It's not a very useful function, but it does perform a function. It distracts us, if nothing else, from what we are facing at the moment. And if you don't get to grips with why you are doing that, then you might be successful in stopping doing it. But what I have found is you will just replace it with something else. So it's like, great, I stopped drinking. But then I started eating pizza and chocolate chip
Yeah.
cookies and ice cream in exactly the same way that I used to drink. And then I figured out, and then I stopped eating and, you know, actually did the work and started to deal with the problems that sat underneath the drinking. And it's so common. You know, you see people, they stop drinking, they get crazy about the gym. They stop drinking, you know, they just throw themselves into work, computer games, online shopping, gambling. You know, what have you got? You sort of like replace one thing with another. But you know, there is a better way, but it does unfortunately involve work. You have to sort of think about things like the rest of your life. What in the fancy pants world I live in, we'd call that recovery capital, but it's just your job and where you're living and your car and your relationships and all of those kind of things that make your life work. But then you also need to sort of think a little bit about emotional intelligence and how you deal with your own emotions, how you face problems that you might have had in the past, how you react to things that happen today, how you build self-awareness, things like that. And then of course connection is massively important. You know, we are not a solitary species. We very much need the company of other people. So there's a lot of work that people have to do around, you know, finding a new way to relate to other people. And like, I hate saying it, but it is actually genuinely a bit difficult. It is kind of hard work. The good news, I suppose, is it's not complicated. It is pretty simple. It just requires a bit of effort.
Yes, yes. I'm curious, when you started living, when you quit, can you recall your maybe first day or first week? What was the difference? Like, what was the difference? What did you feel? How was it?
Yeah, I can very, very vividly remember, how I felt almost, to the day after I stopped drinking. It was very clear. Funnily enough, it was about this time of year. It'd be 9 years in about a week and a half's time, something like that. So the weather
Okay.
was kind of like this, and it was this sort of like bright, sunshiny, kind of late spring. Everything's kind of a bit exciting, and the weather really perfectly mirrored how I felt, because I just woke up in the morning and I'd had a good night's sleep for a change, and I felt energized and I felt enthusiastic about the world. And you know, I vividly remember when I was a teenager, really kind of sensing the possibility, and being on the verge of something really, really exciting, and just almost like I had the power to move things around with nothing more than my mind. And I got that feeling back really, really quickly after I stopped drinking, and it was just brilliant. It just felt so much better to be alive. And I guess the other thing that I really noticed was how much more time I had. And if you'd asked me, I would have said, "Oh, I don't spend much time drinking," because I didn't. I got up, I went to work, I was very involved in my community, so I did a lot of things in the evening. I worked very, very hard, and then I'd open some wine about 9 o'clock, something like that. So I would only ever drink between 9 and midnight, and it didn't seem like that was an awful lot of time. But if you actually add it up, 3 hours a day plus a little bit more on the weekend pretty much adds up to 24 hours a week, doesn't it? It's like I got an entirely new day, including all the bit that I was asleep. So yeah, I had all of this time, and that's something that's not uncommon with people that stop drinking. And it's a massive attitude thing. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day who I say the other day, it was January, because he was doing dry January, and he was like, "Oh, I'm so bored. I've got all this time." I'm like, "Dude, that's not a problem. You just need to shift your mindset a little bit. That is a good thing. What is all of the stuff that you wanted to do that you never got round to doing?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I could learn to play the guitar." It's like, "Well, yes, go and learn to play the guitar, because now you've got the time to do it. Isn't that good?" He was like, "Yeah, this is brilliant, Duncan." And it is. So yeah, look, sorry, I could take up the rest of the podcast telling you how amazing I felt
No, it's
just in the
great.
first
It's
week.
great. Yeah, please share. It's great because that's what our audience needs to hear, to the real life examples and how the change looks, and how we don't know, we are not aware of that. We have time. We wasted that time with that bad habit. And now you have the time. Like, even if you don't take the action, if you don't see what happens, you're not going to know what you're missing. So it's great that now you had an aha moment and your friend did too. Now you have the time, you can do it. You're functioning in a better way without having that addiction.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing that I really value about it is the sort of the sense of peace and not being constantly on the move, because I'd spent 20 years drinking, smoking, taking drugs, eating rubbish, and the whole of that time I was chasing after something. I was always thinking, where's the next drink coming from? Can I get to the fried chicken shop before it closes? Am I going to run out of tobacco? Like, it was constant. It was just always
Mm.
chasing something. And as soon as I stopped, it was like, oh, it was like sitting down after a hard day's work. It was brilliant. It was just this sense that, I didn't have to rush somewhere. I didn't have to be anywhere. I could just be, I could just exist, which was great. And then on a kind of more practical level, I managed to give myself gout, which I think is quite an impressive achievement, because like back in the day, you had to be king or something to get gout. Like it was only aristocrats that were rich enough to have a bad enough diet to get gout. But here's me, just an ordinary lad from Berkshire. I managed to give myself gout. I was so proud. And then I stopped drinking, and it massively improved, because yeah, the evidence is pretty clear on that one. If you want to make your gout flare up, just drink. It will do it. And then a few years later, I sorted my diet out, and that went from not just improving it to flat out curing it. I know my doctor is now going, no, Duncan, you have not cured gout. You can't cure gout. But, you know, like I don't take the medication. I don't have the symptoms. That, in my mind, is a cure.
That is amazing. I can listen to you for like hours because you are a real living example that you started living. You are full of enthusiasm, you're full of life and ideas and just positive vibes that you're sharing. And I can feel your energy from Hungary. So it's amazing what you do. And the most important part for me is with all my guests that I have over the past 4 years, they not only change their life, but also helping others to change. That is the most important part because we are not alone. Like we need each other. We all are human having experiencing this life. So we have to support one another. We have to share what we have learned. Our struggles when we had those hard times. We have to share to help someone who don't have to do it. Maybe you spend years on recovering, but not everybody has to do it because now you learned something and now you have a precious gift that you're sharing with people. I want to ask you, lastly, what would be the last sentence that you want to leave our audience with and how people can reach out to you, Duncan?
So the one thing I would really dearly love everybody on the planet to understand, you are enough. You have everything inside you that you need to live a happy, fulfilling life, to, you know, be amazing, to reach the heights. You never needed the alcohol, you never needed the cigarettes, the junk food, you never needed any of it because you are enough. And if people want to get in touch with me, I think you know, what I'd like to do is offer them a gift. So you mentioned Get Overindulgence earlier. That's my first book. If they'd like to have a look at that, they can, for free, download a PDF or a Kindle version. Or if you can stand listening to me for 3 hours and 45 minutes. I apologize for the silly voices now. Then you can listen to the audiobook as well. So that's at getover.uk. If you just put getover.uk into Google, it should take you to a bit of my website. Download it for free. That is my gift to your listeners. Just getover.uk. It will also take you to our website. So there you can find out a little bit more about what I do, the programs that I run. There's a little quiz on there. If you're worried that you might be drinking a little bit too much, that quiz will tell you, you know, where your drinking's at. All of the links to the socials are on there. We're pretty busy on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And, you know, I'd love to connect. And if you've got any questions, I would love to answer them for your listeners. So please get in touch with me because, like you say, we've got to share. I mean, I can't spend an entire day just being enthusiastic about the benefits I've got of stopping drinking and then not share that. I would be the world's biggest idiot if I didn't share that, wouldn't I? So please get in touch. I really, really want to help, even if it's to point you in the direction of, you know, another place which might be better suited at helping you with your current problem.
Thank you so much, Duncan. I had a pleasure to have you today as a guest, and I believe, I'm not hoping this time, I believe this message will go across the people who will make the most out of it and hopefully change their life. And please check out all the links that I posted under our show. Connect with Duncan and see how he can spark your life. Thank you again. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode and now you can apply it to your life. If you did enjoy it, please subscribe to the Coffee O'Clock podcast on Apple and leave us a review. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you feel like someone needs to listen to this episode, share it on your social media or text the link to that person to make an impact in their life. Be sure to tune in every Monday for new episodes. You can also watch the episodes and find more inspiration on my Instagram, which is at JOYYBURCU. Until next time, make sure to spend some time with you and stay with joy.